Welcome to Dubai. We're here live for an out-of-this-world adventure and giving you the chance to be here too. Here we are.
Oh, it's so wonderful to be here. We cannot
Feels
wait
wonderful.
to show you just how incredible this city is.
Hello, welcome to Media Watch. I'm Linton Besser, and that was Nine's breakfast news program today, broadcasting live from the fishing village turned petro metropolis of Dubai, with field headquarters pegged out before some of the world's most opulent hotels.
Welcome back to Today. We are coming to you live from stunning Dubai, thanks to Atlantis The Palm.
With the Brekkie Show beaming in, not for 1001 nights, but for 5, to bring us the news from back home, state of origin and all. And top of the agenda, day in and day out, was the razzle-dazzle of Dubai. Beaches and water parks, hummus and baba ganoush, Lawrence of Arabia-style camel rides, and to wash off the sweat and the sand, the ever-crucial spa refresh. Today also interviewed a joyous conga line of expats.
It's a pretty progressive place to live, right?
Who had not a single bad word to say about life in Dubai.
I'd encourage many people to move over from Australia. It's, you know, get over here quick.
This is like your Bondi.
Yeah, this is like Bondi.
Well, except it's really not. In fact, the UAE is a repressive nation-state governed by an absolute monarchy whose arbitrary and fickle approach to justice and the law can create frightening risks for those who move there for work, like 28-year-old Emirates Airlines flight attendant Tori Towie, an Irish citizen who in June last year was strip-searched and charged with attempting suicide after fleeing domestic violence.
It's marketed as it's very relaxed, that it's changed over the years, but everything's okay until it's not okay.
The risks are also very real for common tourists, like one British woman who was charged with the crime of engaging in extramarital sex in 2016 after reporting to police that she'd been the victim of a gang rape. Same-sex relations are also punishable by imprisonment in the UAE. Rada Sterling, who runs a business assisting and advocating for expats in hot water, says the dangers are real.
People face imprisonment for criticising the country, for criticising its censorship, for leaving a negative review on Google, or even for discussing high-profile cases like Princess Latifa.
Princess Latifa being the daughter of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Dubai's ruler, who imprisoned her after she attempted a desperate escape, as reported by today's sister program, 60 Minutes.
More than a year now, I've been by myself, solitary confinement.
One local official told the program,
I would say in the UAE, women are quite lucky.
So is freedom of speech encouraged or suppressed?
Freedom of speech, yes, everyone is allowed to say whatever they want in their, like any concern, their opinion and so on. But you have to say it, let's say, in a very formal way, respectful way.
yes, Sarah, just be sure to keep it respectful. Not least because the UAE is one of the world's most dangerous places from which to report, if you intend to do any real journalism, that is. This year, the country slid further down the Press Freedom Index, now at 164 of 180 countries, mingling with those awful corners of the planet where it is a crime to speak your mind.
To suggest there is free speech in the UAE is laughable. What viewers are seeing is not journalism, it is scripted public relations.
Despite the entire outside broadcast being funded by UAE government-backed businesses, which Nine did disclose, a spokesman for the media company told us the Event TV project had not been vetted by the foreign government.
Nine retained editorial control at all times, with all editorial decisions remaining independent.
It's not ideal, but it is a reality that journalists targeted with lavish hospitality sometimes accept it. But there's no such thing as a free lunch, and benevolent benefactors are often in possession of a reputation that needs, well, a little polish. The challenge for any journalist who accepts such a gift is to not trade it in for their professional obligations, to ask the tough questions, canvass inconvenient facts, and indeed to bite the hand that feeds them. A test which today itself must surely know it failed in spectacular fashion. And now to a storm of indignation, yes, another one, over on Sky News.
13-year-old
transgender student, that is a male who claims to be female, has prompted outrage from parents at a private Catholic school in South Australia after breaking a number of records by huge margins.
A school athletics carnival in South Australia sparked a media frenzy 3 weeks ago.
A male-born student has dominated a female school athletics competition. It's happened at a sports day at a Catholic school in South Australia. A 13-year-old student broke several records and won most of the events.
A transgender child smashing records and robbing other kids of their chance at glory on the athletics field? Well, it lit up the airwaves for days.
Well, Senator, you know, how on earth is this fair?
It's a great question and something that I ask myself.
The furore was sparked by a news.com.au scoop from intrepid reporter Frank Chung. And on the Monday morning, the Adelaide Advertiser splashed it all over page 1, with the school sports day outrage spilling onto page 5.
A transgender student broke a number of records competing against girls at a recent sports day. They were breaking all the girls' records, said one father.
The story, also published in the Daily Telegraph, the Courier Mail and the Toowoomba Chronicle, prompted a deluge from professional commentators, like this little piece of compassion from former Liberal MP Gary Hardgrave.
You know, in the end, weak men want to compete against women. And they put on the skirt and say, I'm a woman now and I want to compete against you. But even weaker men support those people in that kind of decision.
The controversy dominated Adelaide radio all that day.
It's actually unfair on the boy who's now a girl or now says that they're a girl or whatever their status is. I actually think the parents of that child should have rethought the way they approach this.
Even the ABC considered it a legitimate story, bringing on the South Australian Education Minister to answer some questions.
Obviously, you know, the priority here is to protect, you know, a 13-year-old who's in a delicate situation, you would imagine. Yes. But do you also accept if they are breaking records and they end up in the paper, then that doesn't seem to be, it seems to be putting them at risk.
5 days later, David Penberthy was back, dipping into the outrage once more, this time in the pages of The Australian.
What should have been a happy, uncontroversial sports day at a Catholic school has become a flashpoint. The student broke long-standing girls' records.
The child at the centre of the story was not identified by news.com.au, The Advertiser or The Australian. As you'll see, however, that was the absolute limit of professional responsibility displayed by these publishers before they went to print, because none of them even spoke with the child's family, which is something we did last week.
No child or family should have to experience the trauma or fear that we have been through. My child's privacy and innocence has been violated without consideration or empathy for the devastating lifelong harm this can cause.
The mother of this 13-year-old child told us the media's impact on their lives has been profound.
It's hard to express how horrific it is to read hateful articles about your child and have them used as clickbait for a political agenda created by adults and forced down the throats of kids who are just trying to be kids.
And was the story even accurate? Answer, no.
The media reported incorrect and exaggerated claims about my child, who only broke one and not multiple records in last year's school athletics carnival. It was another girl who broke 7 records.
That's right. The very premise of this story and all the subsequent outrage was wrong. This transgender girl did win some races, but broke only 1 record in 2024 and 1 in 2025. There was, however, another student who smashed 7 records at the 2024 carnival, who happened not to be transgender. The mother also told us that when she saw the article, she called the Advertiser to have it pulled offline. But the paper told her the story had already gone viral. 1 hour later, the paper changed its mind and pulled the online item, which amounted to very little, because it remained on other News Corp websites. Then, when the mother got wind that David Penberthy was writing his update for The Australian, she gave him a call too.
I asked him not to publish his story. He said it had already been submitted, but he offered to interview me for a follow-up story.
Now, I wonder what possible reason she had not to take up this generous offer. Penberthy insisted to Media Watch his was a legitimate story and said he had tried to address the mother's concerns by having comments disabled from his article. And as for why the Australian had failed to publish a correction...
Until now, I did not know that she wanted one. If she does want one, I will take that up with the editors.
That's right, no corrections at the Australian without a formal application first. After we contacted News Corp, however, news.com.au published a correction and an apology, and Sky News said it had removed its segments from the internet. There is a real and legitimate debate about transgender athletes competing in sport, but this had none of that legitimacy because at the heart of this error-riddled story was, let's not forget, a 13-year-old child whose family was never contacted but was, rather, trampled upon by a media stampede falling over itself to voice outrage. It was so irresponsible as to be breathtaking. And now to the chorus of international condemnation of Israel last week, to which our freshly re-elected Prime Minister lent his voice.
Israel's actions are completely unacceptable. It is outrageous that there be a blockade of food and supplies to people who are in need in Gaza.
Anthony Albanese accused the Netanyahu government of choking off food and vital supplies to a war-ravaged people whose desperation and hunger were on full display last week.
An agony that cannot be denied.
This is a sermon and he is 5 years old.
Today, a British doctor captured these images in the paediatric ward of Nasser Hospital.
Skin and bone.
There was abundant aid that could have helped them. But nearly 3 months of Israeli blockade kept it out of Gaza.
Pictures like these, which have hardened opinion even further against the government of Israel and prompted diplomatic protests from across Europe, the UK and Canada. Last Monday, the Prime Minister ratcheted up the rhetoric too.
People are starving, and the idea that a democratic state withholds supply is an outrage.
The ABC carried those remarks in its news bulletins across the day before inviting Nasser Mashni, President of the Australian Palestine Advocacy Network, to come on air to respond. In the 4-minute interview which followed, he pushed for a stronger response to the carnage on the ground.
It's a rogue state. It's time to treat it that way. And that includes sanctions, it includes recalling our ambassador, expelling the Israeli ambassador.
Combining serious critiques with inflammatory invective, which, it should be said, was met with inadequate challenge.
And the space that Israel inhabited on October 6 has disappeared. The milk's been spilt. Israel never gets to go back to being that normal country again.
Within half an hour of the interview, in which the ABC claims Mashni was factually wrong on one point, it was posted on iView and on the ABC website. But try and watch it now, and this is what you find. Because within 2 hours of the video going up, it was taken back down, prompting accusations by the advocate that...
This appears to be another instance of Palestinian voices being silenced.
So why was the video removed? Was it, as a frenzied internet believed, the result of pro-Israel lobbying or the intervention by a cowed ABC executive? None of the above. The video was pulled because it was originally designated to not run online in the first place.
The original content was done as a live-to-air interview as part of broader coverage and was not intended to be published as a standalone clip. It was mistakenly uploaded, and when that was noticed, it was taken down.
This clumsy error has inflamed already intense scrutiny on the public broadcaster's handling of the conflict, and it comes amid a new flashpoint, with Benjamin Netanyahu, desperate to cling to power, having launched a new phase of the war and being accused of using a US-backed aid program as a bargaining chip, while Hamas continues to hold dozens of hostages and is accused by Israel of threatening those who assist. The result? Yet more bloodshed. And for those who resile from Nasser Mashni's criticisms of Netanyahu, they might consider them in light of these words from one of Israel's most steadfast defenders and a former Prime Minister.
What we are doing in Gaza now is a war of devastation. Indiscriminate, limitless, cruel and criminal killing of civilians. It is time to halt before we are all banished from the family of nations and are summoned to the International Criminal Court for war crimes with no good defence. Enough is enough.
And this is why deleting a pro-Palestinian voice from your website, even if it was posted by error, will inevitably be seen as censorship. Indeed, it's so very telling that the ABC received no complaints about the interview itself, but more than 100 about the decision to remove it. We see no reason why the interview cannot be reposted online, perhaps with an editor's note to address any errors or shortcomings and allow audiences to make up their own minds. And that's all from us tonight. Be sure to check us out on ABC iView, as well as X, YouTube and Facebook. You can find full statements on our website, and don't forget to send us your tips. I'll see you next week.